Meeting movement. Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic. Yours, Chris?
Yeah, now I can. It was out.
All right. All right. So, why don't we just run through them, the years of
Yeah.
service and.
So this year we have 5 retirees. Unfortunately, due to conflicts, none of them were able to be here this evening, but we have Colette Alonjewat, who's been here for 16 years teaching chemistry at the high school. We have Blaney, who has been for 21 years teaching business and distributed education. He's also our athletic director. Ashley Greger has been with the district for 32 years teaching at Walden Place. Mark Lavity has been a school psychologist at the high school for 30 years, and Mr. Lipka has been the principal of Walden Place for 21 years. So thank you all for your service to the district, and we will be acknowledging them separately at a different time as well.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm not sure if anyone's listening or not, but thank you all for all your years, for everything you've done for the district. All right, next, we'll go to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? This is, we had the new,
Yes,
where's that?
the one and the other one where we didn't explain anything.
All right, anything? All in favor? Aye. Any against? All right. New business. Financials and warrants. Do I have a motion to accept? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions? Comments? All in favor? Aye. Any against? All right. We have a donation from the Eastern Dutchess Roadrunners Club for $4,675.57. Do I have a motion to accept?
So I'll second.
Do I have a second? Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. I think this is the second time they,
This has become annual over, I mean, it's quite a few years now where they've given about that much money after their events, and they donate it to our athletic program. So we're really grateful for that money because it goes to different things that sometimes unexpected needs. So we really appreciate the donation.
very
It's really
good.
nice.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Any against? All right, President and Vice President's report. Just so everybody knows, everybody's reminded, graduation Friday. We need to be in the superintendent's office at 6:15, so that Caroline can once again show us how to put those things on our back. And we line up at 6:45. The NYSBA convention this year is once again in New York City, October 23rd and 25th. If any of you want to go, please let Cheryl know by July 8th. And then the registration comes up at August 12th. I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have. Chris, did you have anything?
No, just to congratulate all the scholarship winners and all the graduates this year.
Good. All right, next superintendent report.
So we have been incredibly busy with tons of events going on around the district in the last few weeks since we last met. But there's some really fun and exciting things that are happening also. On Monday, we had representatives from Sky Schools that presented to all faculty. 79 teachers completed a survey regarding this experience, and 56 said it was overall valuable, 8% said it was overall valuable, 18% said it was somewhat valuable, and 23% said it was very valuable. So it's very positive feedback for continued training. And what Sky Schools is essentially, it really couples well with our social emotional learning initiatives. So it's all about breathing and learning different breathing techniques, some of which are, pretty discreet and you could use anywhere. And the staff even went through some of these experiences in a large group. And to get that kind of feedback, first of all, to get 79 people to participate in a survey out of, just about 100 teachers, I think is a remarkable percentage of teachers to participate, and having that much positive feedback is really awesome. So we're going to be piloting this with some of our students this coming school year. And so we'll be looking to see the impact that it has positively for our students. We're really excited about it. The administration had gone through this training a little bit earlier in the year and then brought it back for staff, and now we'll roll it out for groups of students. And the way that Dr. Watkins has staggered the rollout is some of the kiddos will be receiving this training next year. They'll be like the 8th graders will be rising into the high school. So some kiddos in the high school already have this training. Some kiddos in the middle school have this training. So we will be pushing it out throughout the district to make sure that eventually everybody has exposure to this. So staff gets trained, sort of like coaches or like facilitators. They learn how to walk kids through these breathing techniques. But either way, it's to help students regulate themselves, and honestly, adults need it too. So it really is a great experience and it's a great opportunity. Our staff developers have been back working with Walden Place teachers this week. Math has been focused on the use of manipulatives and their pacing guides, and reading has been working on morphology and vocabulary teaching practices. And it's been great to hear Mr. Cedarmark's feedback. He's been very engaged in those professional development opportunities, and he's really hit the ground running down at Alden Place. He set times to meet with each of the staff in the building, hear a little bit about their perspectives on what's going on. He has some really great ideas on how he would like to support growth and change, but also really celebrating a lot of what is working well. So he's been doing both of those things. We've had 2 successful field days so far at Elm and Walden. Also Big Blue Day at the high school also was a success. And we look forward to the middle school's field day, which will be next week, weather dependent, on Wednesday. So the psychologist and Dr. Watkins have been participating in the state performance indicator training. And this particularly is focused on parental involvement. So we were one of the lucky ones who had this parental involvement survey that was due during COVID. And so when everything was completely remote and you could not be anywhere near people and none of those things could happen, we were supposed to be giving parents this packet with a unique identifier code that they were then supposed to be able to use to respond to a survey. And obviously, we failed to meet enough percentage of parents actually responding to the survey, so we had to repeat it. And so that was like a baseline, and now we're repeating it again just because we are on cycle for it. So just to be clear, there are state performance indicators, I believe, in 11 areas. And so some of them are numbered, but there is no indicator for us because we don't actually have, say, that population or type of program or whatever, but we respond to 11 of them on a cycle basis. And so this one just happens to be regarding parental involvement. Sometimes it's like the timeliness and completion of evaluations. It could be reporting on the types of programs that our students are placed in. So this is just where we're at this year. And then next year it'll be state performance indicator number 9. Regents testing's underway at the high school. We've also celebrated middle and high school academic awards, with Alden Places Awards and Moving Up ceremony happening tomorrow. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. And congratulations to all of the winners and all of those who will walk home with awards tomorrow. I really do want to thank all of our donors who awarded over $100,000 in scholarship. Unbelievable. The generosity is really what helps some of our kids, go to school or trades programs beyond high school. So thank you to everyone who makes that possible. Our summer scholars and extended school year programs are starting on July 1st. Samantha Bopp, who is our coordinator, has been working with staff to gear up for summer, and Jessica Wilcox, who you will meet in just a moment, has also been working with her staff to make sure that our kiddos will have full bellies for breakfast and lunch. So thank you so much for your work there. Kim Lattenville, our instructional technology integrator, has been providing instruction for teachers on the responsible use of AI in the classroom. So that is something that's consistent with the federal administration's executive orders that they want everyone to have training in the responsible use of AI. I know that there are mixed feelings on AI, but the reality is it's here to stay. And I think when harnessed, it can really be a powerful, positive tool. And so we've also been working in policy committee to look at different policies to sort of govern the use of AI within the district. So more to come on that. Before I kick it to Elliot, who will give a report on the capital project planning facilities team that met, and also the COPS grant that we are working on with safety, I do want to congratulate Elm Drive on a beautiful Flag Day ceremony. Miss Doris happens to be here, so I'll embarrass her a little bit. She retires a flag annually on Flag Day. Miss Doris is a veteran of the U.S. military, and so it's something that she holds near and dear and really enjoys educating the students on the meanings of the American flag and all of that, the history and the proper way to care for a flag and then retire it when it's no longer being used. So congratulations to Elm Drive. I know, speaking to Miss Lynch, she was very moved by the ceremony, and she has some exciting ideas of how to expand it in the future working with you. So they're very excited about that. Our continuing education program is still taking registrations, and something so cute, but that has not been published yet. Our kindergarten students were recorded providing advice for our high school seniors. Some of the cutest things ever. And so that is going to be pushed out on social media and shared with the seniors. Separately, we did have it set to run at the award ceremony, along with a beautiful video that was made by senior Samantha Rosenbergen. Unfortunately, there was very rare and persistent tech issues that night. And so it didn't get shared in that venue, but we are going to share it out otherwise. Our seniors will be visiting our elementary schools, walking their journey throughout the district for a back to the nest type ceremony tomorrow. And we are going to be creating a really exciting social media moment from that video footage. So look forward to that coming out on social media. Finally, Cheryl and I have endured the pain, and we have finished all of our the monitoring for the COVID grants, and we finally got all of that closed and approved by New York State. It was the most arduous process ever, but it is done. We have final approval. And so we have successfully met all of their requirements and finally finished. And on the grant front, like I said before, I kick it to Elliot, who will tell you about one new and exciting grant we're working on. Dr. Watkins' office has been sending out our letters to schools in our catchment areas and schools that have our Millbrook resident students attending them for their participation in the ESSA grants. So one of the funny things about that is we don't actually even know how much money we're getting, but so far we know we're getting money, and hey, do you want some of it? That's kind of how this is going. We're also in the process of completing our IDEA grants for students who have, unique learning abilities, and the programs that educate them, they also get a portion of that in flow through funds. So anywhere we send our kiddos get some of that money. So we're working on that. That is due in early July. And then I participated last week with some folks from State Ed on the reimagined accountability process. So there was a lot of conversation around like Ignite New York and the programs and Inspire and all of that. And so that went away. That was not part of the budget. So we just worked for a couple of years on Inspire, and then it was dead in the water, no money backing it. And now all of a sudden we're in the reimagine phase of accountability. So all of this is different. How we're going to measure accountability is going to look very different for some, not so different for others, depending on demographics and, that kind of thing. So I'm not really sure what it means for Millbrook yet. This was sort of like the preliminary conversation that we've had. And so there didn't seem to be too much concrete information about it. So I look forward to sharing information when I have it. I do have some dates there for you all. As I said, tomorrow we have Alden Places moving up Juneteenth on Thursday, so no school for students. And then June 20th, we have graduation, and then middle school field day and middle school moving up next week. And I will be in Washington, D.C. with 2 middle school teachers for the National Middle School Association's National Conference, when we will be redesignated as a school to watch. Does anyone have any questions?
I know he started, but has Eric finished the whole student on the school board? I know he was talking with
He
the
did,
juniors, I guess.
Yes, so he did those interviews, but I never got the name yet.
Okay, but he
Yeah.
was
Yes,
able
he
to,
did.
and the kids were good with doing that.
Yeah, there was an application process and interview process.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, and now we get cake. No?
I know.
It's a year early.
No, we do it once and then we expect it all.
I think Elliot has a presentation to share. Oh, wait, also Elliot, can you just share a little bit, sorry, Jessica, can you share a little bit about the facilities update for the capital project and then the COPS grant?
Okay, I can do the COPS grant first. It's a shorter chat.
Yeah.
So the COPS grant is something that's put out, but it's community oriented policing services. It's a grant, a family of grants done by the United States Department of Justice. And then there's a subset of grants for School Violence Prevention Program, SVPP, and that's what we're applying for this month. So there's grant money for physical improvements to district security. And so there's a couple of things that we're looking at. If the board remembers, probably one of the first projects I did when I got here in 2020 is we did a video management system upgrade. So that system is approaching the end of its life and we're planning for its replacement. So we're going to be putting, in a very broad sense, we're going to be putting the closed circuit television surveillance system into that grant, door access upgrades into that grant. We're also adding in the possibility for upgrading our lockdown enunciation system. And lastly, the other piece that we're looking at is a really fascinating emergency first responder mapping program that would standardize how our buildings are mapped internally and externally and shared with local and regional law enforcement agencies. It's a fascinating product, and once we have it in place, I'd love to share some more detail with that. But there's something that Caroline connected us with, and it just seems like a really robust product that would allow first responders to navigate our building seamlessly, regardless of which agency responds. So, without getting too deep into the weeds there, it's just a really cool option. The COPS grant and the SVPP grant specifically are a little hard to come by, but I think it's a really worthwhile endeavor because if any free money is great for us, right? We've learned that we could use all the help we can get, but it's also putting us in a position where we can plan for these projects. So whether we get grant funded or not, we have a long range plan of how to phase them in. So if we don't get the grant money, it's how do we piecemeal this so we can start and grow it out over the next 2 to 3 years. So that's the grant piece. On the 5th, just following our last board meeting, our project team came together to start discussing the post-design referendum phase of our project. And so Hopefully by the reorg meeting, we'll have some visuals to share in terms of milestone charts. So everything's very much in a draft phase, but we wanted to give the board just a quick overview of how we're going to get all $69 million worth of this work done. And so the design team, again, very preliminary stages. We're looking at a 3-phase approach. We're going to call them, again, everything's tentative, but right now we're phase 1A and 1B. And the reason why they're 1A and 1B is they're starting at the same time, but they're going to go to the state at different staggered times. And then phase 2. So phase 1A is for middle school ADA access and windows. So all the single pane windows behind the board member sitting here tonight, the linkway upgrades, replacing our lifts with the machine roomless elevators and addressing the auditorium egress access, all of that stuff, and our windows is the quickest part of the project we can design and bundle and get it to the state. So when we looked at this, we looked at what can we peel out and get it done fast. So we've already had architects here this week, taking notes, taking pictures, working on the schematic design of those processes. In parallel to that, phase 1B is going to be, again, tentatively the middle school HVAC and roof and the high school HVAC system. Again, very much HVAC intensive for both secondary buildings. The high school will be able to move much faster once approved. But we went back and forth about how to handle this roof situation. And the reality is we're designing the linkways at the same time, so any unions would be addressed, but also it doesn't make a lot of sense. And we've talked about this in community forums, right? We need to design the roof with all the mechanical equipment that's going to go on top of it, all the pipes that are going to come through it. And so for those reasons, we anticipate being able to get the phase 1A, the windows and ADA plans to the state by the end of this calendar year. And so the intent is to get them to Albany for approval by end of December, get it back sometime in the early winter, and be able to do some physical construction in summer of 26 on that aspect of the project. We anticipate the design work for the roof and the HVAC systems here and at the high school to take us into roughly March of 26. And so that would go to Albany as soon as we have it completed, and construction would be slated again, optimistically, aggressively perhaps, to start summer of 26 and continue potentially through the school year, if not continue in summer of 27. Last piece of this is Elm and Alden. So once we get the secondary buildings up to Albany and get the construction started, we're going to start the design work for Elm and Alden in parallel, tentatively for June of 26, and then follow the 1-year cycle, having that work addressed to NYSED by the spring of 27, and then construction spanning between 27 and 28. The other piece of that I just wanted to make reference to is because of the scope of work for this roof, it is very likely going to be a multi-year project. So we anticipate a full summer of construction in as early as 27 if we can, and 28. It may span both summers and the winter in between. There's going to be a lot of variables that need to be worked out. One of the considerations was the high school scope of work is a little bit more simplistic versus what we're doing in this building. Having the high school fully functional would be an asset to us as our second largest building in the event that we ever have to relocate a small student population due to any building failure or the heat index issues that are going to come up as part of the new legislation that passed last year. So we want to get the high school kind of buttoned up and ready, get the middle school rolling ASAP, and then focus on the 2 elementary schools once these projects are up and running. So that's where we are right now. We have another meeting scheduled for next Wednesday where we're going to continue this. So some of the homework for the design professionals is really getting the ball rolling, getting all of our contracts for the core team. So that's our architect's contract, our construction manager's contract, the financial planners. We have those. They're going to council for review. We're hoping to have those ready for board adoption at reorg or very closely thereafter so that they can just get out and run. We've also discussed, we had a call with our financial planners and our auditors about how to move the money. So we're going to be moving the $10.5 million out of the capital reserve and the $1.5 million out of our general fund and putting them into the construction fund as early as this week. Our treasurer, Ashley Burhans, has been in contact with our fund managers to physically move. It's a lot of money to move. And she's been working with the banks to make sure we have the account set up so that money can land and start funding what we needed to fund as soon as possible.
So do we have, there's no way to do some emergency work that, so we don't have the kids, water running through their lockers and.
The challenge with the way the state defines emergency is in-kind replacement, and we're doing a redesign. So it kind of precludes the emergency process. Mr. Mullins, however, in preparation of mitigating issues from now till then, has solicited quotes from 3 different vendors in 3 different styles, as well as put a scope of work together that we could address internally if we had to. We also have the availability of our repair reserve, which has roughly $200,000 in it. Should we need to access that money, the board could declare a local emergency to address a section should one of our sections fail. Again, we don't think the entire roofing system would go down at once, we hope. But if we have any major issues come up, we have a combination of general fund resources and repair reserve resources that we can tap into while we're getting this approval taken care of.
And how does the EPC fit in?
The EPC team are with the design team, so they were at the table with us, and we'll talk about, like, at one of our upcoming presentations, we'll talk about exactly how that happens, but they're designing their piece in tandem with BBS.
Okay. Question? All right, thank you, Elliot.
Sure. Give me 1 second to get you on screen, and it's all yours, Ms. Wilkin. And let me just make it go away. Okay, you're up.
First, I would like to say, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed my first 9 months here. And I'm really happy to be part of the group. My first few slides, I wanted to explain a lot about the program and what has to go into the planning process, especially with menus. So we have to do 80% of whole grain products per week. There are new regulations going into place in September that any of our milk, the flavored milk especially, has to have less than 10 grams of added sugar for 8 ounces. Yogurt has to have less than 12 grams for 6 ounces, and our cereal products have to have less than 6 for the 1 ounce that we provide. This is just a diagram of the current cereal options that we have. And some of them are a little surprising. Things like Cocoa Puffs actually will have less sugar in it than Golden Grams. Same with Corn Pops. That was one I was very surprised on. But a lot of our manufacturers are in the process of reformulating all of the cereals. So fingers crossed for our student at Elm, we can get Lucky Charms that falls into that.
Oh, yeah.
We have one little student that's all they want. So we're hoping that they will be able to formulate it so that it will fall into those guidelines. Same thing with yogurt. Our current provider of yogurt is Upstate, which is a New York product, but that does not currently fall within the guidelines. So fingers crossed they reformulate it as well. Our vendors right now are working on some other options. Chobani is actually one of them that we will be able to get. Falls within it. Sure.
What is it now? Like, you don't pay for all of them, like for yogurt, what is it now?
There wasn't actually a real regulation. It was an overall sugar content. So they're starting to, the sugar is the one that's rolling into place in September, and then sodium is the next one.
Can I ask you just before you went to the milk, because I've seen these things, I don't even know where I've seen them about bringing whole milk back to schools.
It's a big debate.
Yeah, does that have, and I should know this, does that have more than the amount of sugar in it that we're allowed to have?
So what we're reducing is just the added sugar. So it's
Okay.
not the natural sugar in it. They don't look at that. We just have to look at the added sugar.
Okay.
So if that goes back into it, we'll be fine.
Okay, all right, thank you.
This is just a little explanation of when I plan the menus, what we have to include. So for breakfast, I can do the same menu for every student in the district. It's a K through 12 requirement. They only have to have a minimum of 1 ounce of grain, which is usually our cereal. And then they have to have 1 cup of fruit offered to them, but they can take half a cup. And then there has to be 8 ounces of milk offered to them daily as well. We try to at breakfast always offer 2 ounces of grain, because 1 ounce is not very much for most of them, especially the older students. And we can offer vegetables at breakfast as well, but most of them won't take it. And now where lunch is concerned, there's different regulations we have to follow. For K through 8, it's a 1 ounce minimum of meat and grain. And for higher grades, it's 2 ounces. When I plan the menu for the middle school, I try to phase into the 2 ounces especially. There's a lot of things like popcorn chicken that we offer. They all get 2 ounces. It's 1 ounce is not a lot of food. And then fruits and vegetables, these are the minimums as well. We have to offer 3/4 of a cup daily of vegetables, half a cup of fruit for the younger grades, and then it's 1 cup. We offer a lot of variety. We've been trying to add in more fresh vegetables. So there's cut cucumbers, cut peppers, cherry tomatoes, as well as our hot vegetable that we offer. And then you just have to have another 8 ounces offered at lunch of milk.
Jessica.
Yeah.
Back to the former slide. I'm surprised that the milk is the same for
For
all
both of
age
them.
groups, right? But everything else is different.
It has to, honestly, in the planning with that, I'm not totally sure, but I think a lot of it comes into play with the calories we have to meet as well. So in addition to that, I have to put every menu I do through calories, average calorie for the week, average sodium, average fat, make sure it meets all of those guidelines in addition to this, as well as colored vegetables. I have to put each color on here.
So do we as a district, though, this probably isn't so much a question for you, but more of a committee or just a thought. We as a district feel that we should be offering more milk to our older students, or not even necessarily milk, but more protein, right? Because we do have allergies, right? Dairy allergies. So it's also surprising to me that it's just milk, not.
So
protein.
the meat alternate at the top, that's where they get the 2 ounces, and that's in addition to their milk.
Right.
So if I have a student who is a vegetarian, or is allergic to dairy, we can make sure that they are still getting the amount of protein that they're required to get with the 2 ounces of meat and meat alternate. So we have options, like I brought in hummus, we have sunflower seeds, we have sun butter as well for students who are allergic to peanut butter. So we're trying to add in more options as well for them.
Okay. Thanks.
How many colors do you have? I'm sorry, I'm shocked at this. How many colors of vegetables do you have to?
So you have to have dark green, yellow, orange, other, which is cucumbers, they don't count as the green. Then you have to have a starchy, and you also have to have beans and legumes. And they each have a separate requirement as to half a cup or a cup offered each week. So the hard one that we have run into, we do well with it though, is the beans and legumes.
So, right.
So we offer roasted chickpeas every Friday with our Caesar salad. But dark green is romaine lettuce, but things like green beans, no, they don't count in that category. So each one has a separate column of what vegetables I can put in.
Wow. Okay.
So now moving into the money aspect, this is a diagram showing the general fund transfers dating back to 2013. In 2015, 2016, there was a very large spike. I can't really speak to why it's there. But if you look at 23, 24, and this year, 24, 25, are about the same. And the plan for next year is that I'm going to move down. I want to be a solvent business, and I don't want your money. I said that to Elliot when we talked about it, and I was like, I don't want your money. I want to be able to support this without requiring the district's funding, which is our 3-year plan. Does anybody have any questions about this one? So this one's got a lot more points on it. This shows our revenue versus expense, our budget, and then the bottom line, which is supposed to be dotted, is our revenue without the general fund transfer. So the blue spike is the revenue, that was COVID money. So then you can see it trends down.
Make it bigger for you.
That's good. And then the budget for this year is a very large spike. I was discussing this with Ashley and Elliot the other day, because there's only so much of this I can speak to since I wasn't here. But the revenue and the expense, I'm trying to bring them as close as possible. So for this year, you can see that's as of May's expenses. We are right on top. The red is our expense and our revenue is just below it. Do you want to add anything else to that? Did I miss anything?
No, I think it's pretty clear. The budget number spiked, but I would say with that, we added a lot of labor this year in bolstering the program. So a big cost driver there is people. I will say for those at home as well as in the room, this is labor that is funded by the school lunch program. So these are not employee expenses that are hitting the general fund budget. We didn't add a bunch of employees and not tell you guys. We added labor to the school lunch program, but it's self-funded. So their payroll is coming out of the revenue that she's trying to produce. And so Jessica inherited this budget, but she's doing a really strong effort. You can see in closing the revenue and expense gap as we're moving into next year.
Just so, I mean, from the board's standpoint, you know, we've been, I'll say, talking about this for a while, but the fact that it's driving down is excellent. The bigger, or maybe not bigger, but another important aspect is no surprises. You know, that big spike that you saw on that previous chart was basically, hey, we're running way over. How much money can you get? How much can we take out of the general fund? I mean, it was a big surprise. And it was too much. I don't know, it was just too many variables in it to keep it under control. Fact that you've been driving it down, I mean, you, meaning everybody, driving it down, driving it to more consistency and giving us a much better view of it is exactly the right path, at least from my standpoint.
Another way that I also work on making sure that our expenses and our revenue are very close. Any menu I plan, I cost it out, just like you would in a restaurant, to make sure that I'm not spending too much on food versus what we're getting reimbursed from the government. You have a question?
So is the most of that was my question, the most of the revenue is from government funding, not like snacks that the kids buy or like an extra lunch or something?
I get an extra lunch is a little bit more, but most of our revenue comes from the reimbursement from the government. A la carte sales are great. When I looked the last time, we made 39,000 this year, but we make most of our revenue from students eating.
Okay.
Yeah, eating those meals. So as I said before, my 3-year plan is to decrease our fund balance transfer, or excuse me, that should say general fund balance transfers. A big thing that I'm excited about is our plan to add Hayes Day School on and start serving them breakfast and lunch. And this will provide free breakfast and lunch to all of their students as well. They would bring them under our CEP eligibility. I recently applied for equipment grants for each one of our schools. Fingers crossed, they were submitted on Monday. And it's especially for schools like Doris, it's to get her another refrigerator to provide more space so that we can have more fruits and vegetables. We can bring in more product. And brings me to the next thing of New York State Initiative. This is a program to add reimbursement money per student if I can spend 30% of our expenses on New York products. And by bringing in New York products, that means that we're gonna need more refrigeration space because most of those are not frozen. That's also the plan for, Alden. They also need a little bit more refrigeration space. And these two statistics on the bottom show that we are not reaching as many students as we can. For breakfast, we only serve about 12 to 15% on a daily basis. And for lunch, it's higher, which is great, but I would love every kid to have breakfast and lunch, especially since it's all free.
The Hayes Day School, what's, I don't remember that.
From Cardinal Hayes.
No, yeah, I know, but,
Oh, that's new this year.
so we're providing meals that Cardinal Hayes?
So the plan is to apply and bring them under our umbrella for food service. They had reached out to us asking if we could provide meals. And I learned 2 ways we could do it. Apply for them to be under our umbrella, or I could charge them as a catering fee. And for most of their students, it would be fantastic for them to have for breakfast and lunch. So we're starting with that, as long as the state approves the application.
I didn't know we were doing that, very good.
And by bringing them on also, and it will help increase our revenue. The math I did with the students they told me they had, we should bring in an additional 50,000.
The participation rates, do you have any idea how those compare to previous years? It's okay. If you don't have that answer, I just.
Unfortunately, I don't, because the program we're using this year, Mosaic, is different from the one that was used previously. So I don't have any of the data from previous years.
I can look, I might have it.
Don't worry about it for this moment. But for breakfast, I know at least I can only speak to what was sent out for this building, because my children are in this building, but I know at the beginning of the school year, the doors were opened a little bit earlier, like 5 minutes earlier, to allow the students to eat, to have more time to eat, and just wondering if adding a little more time might help with that. Because I know a lot of students are really stressed about making it to home base, so.
I can only add that I know in conversations with Mr. Cabello, he personally went on the buses to invite the students in to go grab it, and was trying to make it warm and welcoming and inviting and trying to get people to come in. Yeah.
All you can do is try.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
But I'll continue to work with
Sounds
them.
like a key to that is getting the Lucky Charms back.
I can rattle off 3 kids I know that.
Love them Lucky Charms.
You're good.
I have a question. Okay, obviously it's gonna concern me and my job. On this Hayes program, how would the distribution of the meals gonna take place?
So it's only about 40 students that we'd be now making additional meals for, and it would all go based out of here at the middle school. And on the day we're making mac and cheese, we're just gonna increase the portions by 40. And actually, they have a porter who will come pick everything up and transport it.
Oh, fabulous.
Do they even have they used to have a really nice kitchen up there, but
They don't use it anymore.
it's not, yeah, I thought it was gone.
They used to have a chef too, as far as I know, that they had come in and cook for the students.
So what are they equipped to actually pick the stuff up and keep it hot and all that?
Yes. Yeah, they have all the stuff to keep it hot. And then for breakfast, the discussion is that everything will be packaged up and given to them with the lunch so that it's there for the start of school the next day because they have all the refrigeration. These are just some sample menus and highlights we are gonna do as a New York Thursday. So these are all New York products. So Slate Meatball is, they are local to New York and they have a variety of beef products and they provide to a variety of school districts in the county. Spolini is a pasta that is New York. In order for something of a grain to count for New York, the wheat has to be grown in New York. It can't just be made in New York. So any product has to be grown, produced, so the pasta has to have New York State wheat and it has to be made here. Hudson Harvest is another one where we can get marinara sauce with New York tomatoes. The chicken and waffles is a funny one. We can get New York chicken and carrot waffles. And I know they sound gross, but they're actually really good. Thankfully, I get a lot of samples. So the business office loves it when I get boxes of samples. But I have tried the carrot waffles before and they are delicious. That you really wouldn't know, besides they're a little pink, or excuse me, a little orange in color.
So they're made out of carrots.
They have carrots in them.
Okay.
I mean, I made a carrot cake.
Yeah, sure. I think they're
Yeah.
I think a lot more people like carrots than we, they're sweet, they're delicious.
And then Slate also has hamburgers. And the K Foods also makes onion rings and green beans. The breading on them is New York breading and they are New York onions and New York green beans. So by doing this, it promotes eating local and eating from New York State, but it also helps us reach that 30% initiative. A few other things that we participated in and will be participating in is I'm partnering with American Dairy. We received 4 5-gallon dark Cambros that are drink dispensers, as well as 4 insulated cooler bags. This was a program they started to offer hot chocolate as the milk for breakfast. So it counts as your 8 ounces. It doesn't have all of the added sugar if you were to do store-bought. And this actually was a big hit. Unfortunately, we got the equipment right before it was like 80 degrees outside. So come next winter, it'll be a great option for them to have for breakfast. And we just received 2 Vitamix blenders to start making smoothies for the students. So this will be something we do in September as well. Yes. And this is all through American Dairy and these are all free. So these are programs that we participate in and thankfully it was at no cost to us. So this is a little wrap up. We had our child nutrition review in March. They checked to make sure that our meal pattern, that I'm getting all those vegetables in, that the menus meet what they need to, food safety, that we're keeping track of all of our records and financial accountability. There was no corrective action that they noted, just a few technical things. Increased signage, which is it's hard to ever understand and know how much they want. Every school that I've talked to pretty much gets that same technical assistance. And one of our recipes didn't have the component listed on the bottom. So it shows that it has mac and cheese and that it's pasta and the cheese. But on the bottom, it doesn't say that it's 2 ounces of your meat alternate and 2 ounces of grain. That's what they want to see. So that if I'm not here and somebody else needs to know how much it qualifies for, it's listed on the recipe. And that's a picture of me dressed up as popcorn. And I also have a cow costume that I like to wear. This was to promote the hot chocolate at the high school. And the popcorn outfit, we did a pin pad popcorn at Elm to help get the students to memorize their pin number. So when they came through the lunch line, they knew it. It was mainly to move the 2nd graders up into 3rd and get them ready for next year, but we did it for the entire school. So if you got your pin number after a month, we were handing out popcorn.
Nice.
And this is just a fun little quote. Does anyone have questions for me?
Are there any regulations changing that?
So our snacks have to all go through what's called a smart snack calculator. So it's a website I have to put everything in. So even our vending company has to do the same thing. If it's available to students, every item has to go through this calculator. And you put, if the first ingredient is whole grain or a vegetable, and then you go to the next one where you list all the calories, the fat content, sugar, and it will come back and say this doesn't qualify or it does.
I
So-
can interject too,
Yeah.
just give you credit. Jessica worked with our vending company and revamped all of the vending machines in the district to make sure we had compliant snacks available for kids and our staff machines were also revamped, and there is a profit sharing component to that where we get a cut of the sales. So our kids are getting good food, and the district's got a new revenue stream, and that was all on Jessica too. So I want to get the
Oh,
credit.
that's awesome.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank
How
you.
does pre-K fit?
Pre-K?
Pre-K.
So pre-K would, because they're commingled with other students, then they follow the K through 8 for lunch. If they were to eat on their own and have a separate cafeteria, then they would have to follow the CACFP guidelines, which are definitely different.
So we just, well, they're part of that K to 8.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Any other questions?
This was great, thank you.
Just like I said, the biggest thing is no surprises. You know, if the New York State whacks something and, you know, it's suddenly gonna cost us more, who knows what. But if that, the sooner you can give us an idea of it's, you know, heading this way, I'm gonna try to do this, I'm gonna do that. But the more you can plan it out, the better.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah, and I would just say that Jessica's been a fabulous addition to the program, but I think it's also been really refreshing to have her home base out of the business office. So we're in constant communication all the time, which wasn't necessarily the way that the program functioned in the past with the director who was, you know, moving around from the kitchens and based out of another building. So it's nice to have Jessica up here. I know she visits buildings and she is in the kitchens and she's actively involved. But we also see her on a daily basis, so we get those updates. And we're able to support and work through with things like the Cardinal Hayes program. We were able to get in touch with their principal. We had a meeting with them together, problem solved, and then Jessica was able to do the application. They're still waiting back, but at least we were able to do our part. So it's been great all around. It's been a really great year in food service, and we were able to establish full-time employees, which Dars is one of them, who are really taking ownership of their kitchens as well. So the program has changed phenomenally this year. So we're really proud of it.
I assume you have a little buffer, so like, let's say a board member shows up and wants some chicken and waffles.
No.
Just.
You got a taste test in. And truthfully, that's why I reach out to get samples. Because if I'm gonna provide it to the students, I wanna know what it tastes like. I'm not a big fan of slicing chicken. So this year we're moving towards whole muscle products rather than having the formed chicken. But all of those, we got samples of. So.
Very good. Very good. Okay, any other questions? Nicely done, yes.
Thank you.
All right. It's public comments. Time. Done? Public comments?
Not me, I'm quiet today.
Today.
Nice to stay.
Nicely clarified.
But I gotta say that since Jessica has joined the food service group, I have seen such a dramatic change, both in the way we do things, our understanding of why we're doing what we're doing, and just, she has an open door policy. Okay, and she will address anything or any concern you may have. She's a refreshing change to the food service department.
Very cool.
And I won't say it because she's sitting there.
We know.
All right, at some point, this is a personal one. I really would like to hear about the waste from our cafeterias. You know, how much of it's food waste, how much are we actually separating it? What are we doing for, you know, if we're doing smoothies, what are we doing for cups that are gonna be thrown away, biodegradable, all that garbage? But it's something, and again, this is not like me telling you to do that. I would really like to see that at some point, so I'll tell Elliot. Sure. Anyway, very good. Chris, you got anything?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me put my glasses back on. Okay, so next is possibly moving to executive session. Just for anybody that's listening, just because we go to executive session doesn't mean the meeting is over. Any actions that come out of executive session have to be done in public, so we'll go away to executive session, come back, and then there may be, there'll definitely be a following part of the meeting, but there may be some actions that have to be taken. So with that, do I have a motion to go to executive session? Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, very good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.